This is the Venue RX podcast, episode number 5.
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast, where we provide your weekly prescription of tips, tools, tactics, and inspiration to start or grow your wedding and events business. Follow along with our listeners as we delve into the exciting world of events. And make sure you check out our YouTube channel and social pages, where you can engage with our show host and guests. No matter if you're brand new to the business of weddings or an event pro, our mix of mindset and mechanics will challenge and inspire you. And now, without further ado, our host, Jonathan Amen.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Jonathan. I am the host here of the Venue RX podcast, and I am really excited about this episode. We're going to be talking with David Holtze of Harvest Kitchen and the Boardroom. I'm here in the boardroom space right now. We're about to have David come on. The show that we have for you today is absolutely incredible. There's some funny moments in it. There are some inspiring moments, and David's been in business for a long time. He comes from the ad agency and marketing world, and he has a lot of good experience, not just coming from corporate America into running a successful small business, but also his insights on efficiencies and just getting started and things to look out for when you're thinking about starting your own venue are really good. So I'm very excited about this episode. I wanted to get to a couple of housekeeping things before we got started and announce a couple differences in the show. So previously, episodes 1 through 4, I was joined by a co-host, Tim Wyrick. Tim is definitely going to be still involved occasionally, but he was coming on as a temporary co-host. And that's actually going to be a feature of this episode and of this podcast, really, as we continue on. So we are going to be featuring different co-hosts. We actually have a special announcement at the end of this episode, so make sure you're stay tuned for that. But we will be having different co-hosts for different segments of the show. So, we'll be joined by maybe one co-host for 4 or 5 episodes, and then that co-host will go and we'll welcome another one. So I think it's gonna be a really exciting way to always have fresh content. You'll get to see fresh faces on this podcast and definitely some new perspectives as we're engaging with guests and talking about different topics as we seek to bring you some more tips and insight and tools on venues and on wedding businesses. So we are going to get to the podcast here in just a second, but I wanted to lay out a couple things. We have a couple segments. One is called the wedding wheel, and I actually have our wedding wheel right here. So this is a fun little wheel we have. It's going to have different questions on it, and the questions are going to be answered by the guest. We're going to spin it each episode and then give the guest maybe a couple minutes to think about their response, but we're going to have some fun ones. We're going to have some kind of easy ones like, who's your celebrity crush? But then we're going to have some trickier ones as well, some deep ones, some engaging ones. So really excited about this element of our show. We also will have a component called Left at the Altar. And this is the biggest mistake or something that they've seen in the industry. Maybe not necessarily a mistake that they've made, but just a mistake that they feel like other business owners in the same category have made. So it's a great learning opportunity for all of us who are learning from these people we're going to be having on the podcast. The only other bit of housekeeping that we have to do today before we get to the episode is we do have our resource of the day. It's the book Blue Fishing. And this book is by author Steve Sims. He's not just an author, he's a businessman, incredible entrepreneur, really funny guy, very engaging. And as a small plug, I'm actually having him on my podcast here on November 23rd, I believe it is, and we're going to be launching that. So you can check out that podcast on The Jono Show, which is another show that I have. But he's going to be coming on the show. We're going to ask him all sorts of questions about his days being a bouncer and his company, Blue Fishing. But the resource of today is his book, Blue Fishing. And it's the art of making things happen. And I highly recommend you go check it out. His view on just changing how you think about things and how you get stuff done is absolutely groundbreaking, and it's really definitely helped encourage me as I have been in business and kind of struggling with some of the things over the last couple months with COVID. I think that's it for the housekeeping for today. We do have a sponsorship spot that we will be announcing. So if you know of anyone who might benefit by having a portion of this show sponsored, we'd love to give you guys a shout out, bring some awareness to your business. Let us know. I encourage you also to connect with us on Instagram and Facebook and also YouTube. So if you're listening to this right now and you're not seeing this, check out our YouTube at a later time. And if you are on YouTube, we also do have a podcast. So you can get in your daily dose of the Venue RX on your daily commute or whenever else you listen to podcasts. So without further ado, Let's get David in here and let's check out this podcast. All right, David, so good to have you here. Actually, thank you for having me in your space.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm really pumped to see you in the flesh. I know this whole COVID thing has been crazy for so many people. So it's good to actually be sitting down with you here in real life instead of virtually, right?
Yeah.
For everyone out there, we're really honored to have David on the show. David's been on my personal podcast before, but I'm really, really excited about this specific podcast and really what you can add to this conversation, because what David's done is absolutely incredible with his catering brand and now moving into this new venture. So we're going to really be unpacking a bit of his story, and I'm excited to share this all with you. So David, why don't you take it away? Kind of give us a little bit of a picture about what you do. Where are we? What's Harvest Kitchen?
Yeah.
Let us know.
So we're at the headquarters for Harvest Kitchen. It's an organic event catering company, and we're actually sitting in the venue arm of it. This is our small, intimate venue we call the boardroom. It kind of happened almost by accident. 2 years ago, we were searching for a new kitchen space, one that we could really call our home. Discovered this place, and it had this, which was just basically a blank canvas. And I really didn't have a desire to start a restaurant. We're in a tech park in North County, so it's not in this like retail type environment. And I just didn't. I wanted to still focus on catering and not focus on having restaurants. So I was like, well, why don't we make this into an intimate venue? And did the build out. Me and my friend Phil Roxworthy did the design. Had all this amazing wood. I really love wood.
The wood is amazing.
Yeah. So a little side note. So Guy Fieri, you know, Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives. Phil was a builder, and he was building Phil's house, Guy Fieri's house in Northern California, and had all of this extra beautiful timber, because there's some hand-hewn pieces in here and oak and all of these things. We kind of got a deal on it. You know?
That's huge.
Yeah. And so we built out the space and slowly promoted it. Before COVID, we were very busy with our event catering, and we promoted it a little bit. But with the pause that we've had because of COVID, we kind of looked at the boardroom with a new pair of eyes, and we're like, hey, let's really make an effort to market this. And we've seen the opportunity with the whole micro wedding venue or micro weddings becoming a new trend, to reinvent the space as an opportunity for micro wedding ceremonies or just receptions, rehearsal dinners, things like that.
Totally. Awesome. If you hear, maybe Billy will make an appearance here in just a second. If you're hearing some rattling in the background, that is the most adorable dog ever.
Billy, who is chewing on her bone, which is shaped like wood, because like her dad, she is obsessed with, you want to say something? She is obsessed with wood, but we're going to put her down and try and get her to go. She likes to be biting.
I love it.
Your wood bone.
Well, hey, so I'm really excited to talk to you about the boardroom and get into micro venues and get into what you believe could be the new American dream. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. We have some fun segments of this show as well. But just for our listeners and just to give them a little bit of a context on maybe a bit more of your story, who you are and where you come from. Maybe how did you even start Harvest Kitchen? Give us a bit of a peek into kind of your background and what led you to not just the event catering company, but then also now the boardroom. Who are you? Maybe you just give us the Spark Notes version, the Cliff Notes, I guess.
I was previously an advertising director for a digital advertising agency and had a career in marketing.
Okay.
And had a great job. And then I really was motivated by the environmental movement in around 2000.
Okay.
And
And so this is an office job. You're in a cubicle, or
I worked at an ad agency. You could wear what you want. We had a guy with a big mohawk on the tech team. Like, working in ad agencies were always cool offices, cool jobs, cool clients. It was cool. It wasn't like a bad job.
Totally.
But I longed to do something that was good for the environment. And I was like searching for like greendreamjobs.com, looking for somehow to do marketing with like, the environmental movement. And then subsequently, I was also obsessed with food. And I like watched cooking shows since before there was Food Network. I would watch PBS and watch these like Yan Can Cook and all these shows. But I wasn't like, I didn't think I wanted to be a chef, but I just loved the art of food and would just watch for like 13, 14 years of watching cooking shows.
Martha Stewart?
No,
another Martha Stewart. Donna's Day. Have you ever heard of that one?
I really liked Bobby Flay when he first came out. He had like Grilling with Bobby, and he had these shows like that. I love the original Iron Chef, which is badass. The original one that was from Japan. And there's this Italian guy, people that aren't on the shows anymore, but it was less reality TV. I don't watch it anymore. I haven't watched it in a while because it became so much reality and fake, But then it was really just about cooking, and that whole celebrity chef thing came about. And so when I was like in this period, trying to decide what I wanted to do, soul searching for a while, one day I was just like, well, food trucks are becoming cool. That'd be a cool way to spread a green message. What if I had like a biodiesel powered food truck serving organic food? Had this idea, started a business plan, was super stoked on it. And then I discovered Green Truck, which is an already established business in Los Angeles.
Okay. And
basically we partnered up, and I started Green Truck San Diego.
Okay.
And did the typical food truck thing. So this was in 2010.
Okay.
That I started the business here and did the office parks and served food at like Food Truck Friday, gatherings, and I did Coachella. I've done music festivals. I did it all, but did more like the breweries,
okay.
Yeah, and had to try and figure out how to make money. People think like, oh, I'm just gonna start a food truck and people come. It's really hard to set a schedule and find ways to make money. And but I did that for 4 years. It was fun, but to scale that, I could tell was going to be really tricky. And we had already started doing catering, and I really wanted to move off the street and into more refined catering. Still have the truck, but really not do sales off of the truck. So I parted ways with Green Truck and then created Harvest Kitchen. Similar ethos, all organic, local as possible.
More of a catering. It sounds like more of a catering, full production focus instead of just specifically.
Yeah.
Now you did after that, kind of after a little while, do kind of a food truck that's the backdrop, or that is kind of an element of something you can bring to an event.
Correct.
Is that so? You can kind of still bring that element, but that's not really your focus.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The truck is really, so we do utilize our food truck as our like back house kitchen.
Okay.
For
That's
a lot
cool.
of events.
That's really cool.
But then we're doing such large weddings and things where we stage a kitchen and we rent equipment and we cook on site, and it's just beyond what the truck can do. But people still love it. Even if we're not serving people off the truck.
That's what I was going to say. It's cool.
They love seeing our truck. And we made it very like, we wanted to make the design of it subtle. So it was something that wasn't like some trucks you see are just really graphics and lots of branding and colors. We wanted it to be subdued and something that could fit in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But people still love it. And then we still do for like corporate events, for corporate lunches.
Mm-hmm.
They love having the truck. So it still serves a great purpose. But
That's
as
cool.
we evolve more and more, we just, the truck can't supply that.
Cool. So that's a perfect segue into really what we're going to be talking about here on this episode. We are, the Venue RX, we're a podcast. We're focused on venues here. And I think that we've seen a big movement as COVID has really changed the environment for how brides and grooms and just couples are thinking about having their wedding. People may not be able to travel. Guest counts are shrinking, and I know you've seen that on the catering side of things. Mm-hmm. Now you have this space, the boardroom. What kind of immediate advantages have you seen having a smaller space versus a larger space in this environment?
Well, I think people feel more comfortable. It forces people to reduce their head count and think more carefully about their head count with people they know, love, and trust. Mm-hmm. I think if you had a larger venue, people would still want to have the smaller head count, but then be paying the high fee for the venue per se, or just it's just too big than what they need. So for us, I think people are able to then really focus on the people they love and they feel comfortable to share a space with a small group of 25 to 40 people, that are their immediate friends and family. And that's why we set the number for, micro weddings at 42. Mm-hmm. So a couple, and they each get to choose 20 guests. We just think that's a really good number, and that's our max. Mm-hmm. But we've been having events of 25 people, smaller than that. So I think it makes people feel more comfortable. And I think we were early to broadcast and advertise as a micro wedding venue, mm-hmm. And specifically go after that.
So when you're setting up a micro venue, are you having conversations, kind of hard conversations with people who may love the space and the aesthetic? Everyone, the viewers and people, listening, if you're listening, I definitely encourage you to check out the YouTube channel because you'll see what the space looks like. And it's really beautiful. It's very aesthetic. You've done such a good job with the design. Are you having some tough conversations sometimes with couples who come in maybe with a guest count of 80 or 120 and you're like, hey, you got to kind of scale it down? Or is that happening naturally because that's just how you're doing your marketing?
No, I think we have found through just certain sites where we're posted at, they miss that they can still put in a request, an inquiry for 80 people, even though we say that the max is there. They mm-hmm. They still allow them to put in the inquiry. Then when they tell them, they usually say we're actually going to have less people.
Yeah.
We haven't found that. More than anything, it's people, how they want to use the space. And this is where I get into, I think, and even myself thought it's we'll just make it into a venue and just turn it on and it just works. And you forget that people want to customize and they want to do different things. I'll tell you one tricky thing is this beautiful 14-foot long tasting table. Uh-huh. Everyone wants to move it. This thing was built not to move. Okay. And now we're figuring out how to slide this thing around. It's just all these little things that you don't think of.
Totally.
And you want to accommodate to a degree, But I think I would found that is that you think you're done, and then there's just upgrades or things that you want to do based on what people want,
Totally. Yeah. Would you have done this venue space sooner if you could have? Talking to yourself maybe right when you moved in the space, because you didn't immediately you didn't have the vision for the boardroom. It was this is a great kitchen space. This is a cool space that we're going to be able to use to stage the catering company out of. Would you have done it sooner, or was the progression?
The progression was fine. I really try not to look into the past like that. I was anxious to getting to people know about it, because when people would come here, they'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because again, I'll be honest, we're not in a high traffic, high profile area, mm-hmm. but we are near all these, landmarks, and we're conveniently located, but people just don't think. But then when they come in here, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And we get great reviews and everything. So it was more a desire for people to want to know about it.
Totally.
And it's, in today's world, there's so much noise to get something out there that everyone in the area knows about it. For a venue to rent out, it's tricky, you know? And I think we really, because of COVID, it's we had slowly, gradually built the space out. And then we're like, okay, let's make a push for this. And we hired a PR firm, Refined by Sue Hare. Mm-hmm. And Sue Hare did a great job to help get us more known in the wedding industry. Mm-hmm. But we get a variety of events, and that kind of fodder and that kind of energy during COVID just really, I think, helped us get the word out more and put more of a focus to it, because we had time. Our calendar got cleared, you know?
And I think that's something, to your credit, totally kudos to you. I think that's something that a lot of companies that I've seen that are kind of weathering this storm and are still maintaining a bit of a competitive edge, or just evolving, they're willing to think outside the box. They're willing to think outside of just we're just a catering company. You're evolving, you're finding creative ways to do new things. And I love that. I think that speaks to your creativity and your team's flexibility as well, to be able to kind of, evolve, because these are tough times for everyone. It's, and especially in our industry, which I think has been hit the hardest. Certainly one of the harder hit industries. You have, I wanted to say one thing though. You made this point about slimming down your guest count. And I think something that's very interesting is, people may have a lot of acquaintances, but I think people really may have few closer friendships nowadays, because social media, we're so connected to everyone.
I've been hermiting. I'm like, who are my friends? I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, who are my real friends?
Yeah, like who?
Because I'm like, I don't see many people anymore.
Yeah.
And I agree.
And so it's kind of sharpening some of those relationships. I think it's kind of like,
it takes effort now.
Yep, it really
takes
does.
effort,
and you go deeper with those relationships.
For sure.
There's kind of that comfort level, like even just seeing someone before you may have given a casual hug. We're not doing that anymore.
No,
it's like the fist bump or whatever else.
Yeah.
So I really love that, and I definitely think that that's a trend that we're going to see in the industry. Certainly, large weddings. If you have a really big family and you have to do a large wedding, or it's ethnic or cultural or whatever.
People are planning it. We're still getting an increase for them, but there is a trend to the smaller.
Yep. So that's a wonderful segue, because you've talked to me about what you feel like is possibly the new American dream. Tell me about this. What is this?
So it's because it's been a dream of mine, and I've talked to more people, other people in the industry that have the same idea. I think it was born out of Airbnb, right? You saw people seeing investment opportunities in real estate. Originally, it was like me. I was an early adopter of renting my place on Airbnb, but I literally would live in my van and rent my house on Airbnb for extra money when I had to bootstrap and reinvest in my company. It was actually a lot of fun, but it was actually my home. But then Airbnb wasn't really sharing your space. Anyone who's been on Airbnb, a lot of them are like, they're just like, this is an Airbnb house, that's it. Obvious evolution. And that's become a new American dream, I think, right? Is buy real estate and be able to rent it or make an investment opportunity. But what I'm seeing, especially where we are in Southern California, the number one place that I hear about is Joshua Tree. And this idea of I want to buy land, acreage, 1 acre or something, buy land to be able to Airbnb, but also host venues. Host events and be a venue. And it makes sense, because then you're making a real estate investment, right? And then if you're able to cover your mortgage or more than that through Airbnb or as a venue, it's kind of like it's a double whammy, right? And I just think that's the new trend, and I've been hearing about it, and it's exciting. But it's also, I think, again, it seems so easy. It's because it seems very straightforward. You get the land, you figure out what your mortgage is going to be, you try renting it out, But I think markets are going to get saturated, and people don't realize what it takes to run a venue and to get it out there and get it booked, et cetera. But yeah, it seems to be the trend, and it's something I want to do. I have something like that freedom. Like, this is my land, I have my off-grid house, and then I'll have some, everyone, like Airstreams and places where people can stay, and
I think people are definitely tired of kind of this stereotypical, live in a subdivision home, work a job where you have to commute a long distance to. I think even COVID is speeding up this process.
That too.
People are working from home.
Yeah.
And when you can work from home, you don't have to live in Silicon Valley to go to work.
Yeah.
You could live somewhere outside, still keep your job that you're working, but you're working remotely. Maybe you're even finding ways to work more efficiently and still get the job done. I think big corporations are certainly seeing that. And now those large footprints are being, diminished maybe, and it's allowing people to get off the grid, like you're saying.
Well, it's also that idea of more freedom, right? And that the whole van life thing of, you see these like dreamy photos of people in beautiful places,
conversion
working remotely.
vans.
I just converted an RV, and I take smaller trips, but I work remotely and run what I can on these trips. And I think that's the new dream, because there's this, it's I think deeper rooted in that when people see those imagery and the van life thing. When I was living out of my van, people were like, there's this longing for that. And there's a longing for simplicity. And then there's this raging river of buts. But why? But I can't, right?
Yeah.
But there's that instinctual, even if you're very materialistic, even if you want the big house and the Audi and all of that, there is that instinctual moment of I want that. Like, I know that's good for me, but we're addicted. The same way we're addicted to our phones and all of these things. And it's like I really liked, we're getting a little off topic.
No, this is totally on topic.
The Elon Musk interviews with Joe Rogan were great.
Okay.
Hugely popular. The second one, I really liked how Joe questioned Elon on some key things. And one was, he said, he was talking about Neuralink. And I don't know if you're aware about this, about basically the whole sci-fi thing of having a chip in your brain. To make superhuman brains that could all solve terrible medical conditions, but also opens up the Pandora's box, right?
Absolutely.
And Joe was like, I like looking at a campfire. I enjoy the analog of like what, like, I feel if I had this, I'm just gonna think we can optimize this or make it hotter or everything. And it's like, I don't want to lose that emotional thing. And he also talked about like, are we gonna not talk? This is when you think of the download upload speed of communication of humans, it's incredibly slow. And that's how people like Elon Musk see it. This is inefficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was like, I like reading a poem or something where someone just nails it, and I don't want to lose that and basically become a cyborg.
Yeah, and it's not efficient, but there's some beauty in the inefficiency. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Elon's just like, we're already cyborgs. We're already cyborgs. And he talked about his phone, that when you leave your phone at home, you have like this like phantom limb syndrome, right? Where like and that's one thing, that's what he's chasing, is like, we're addicted to it already. So if I do this, what does it matter? Right? We're already on that path. But on the other hand, it's like, when you do leave it at home, you feel like a relief. When you just don't have it, it's like and people are talking about their screen time and all of these things where there's this other draw to put it down.
Totally.
But which one do we chase? This makes money. This does not. You know? So I feel it's the same trend of that, where it's like either unplugging or just going all in.
And this is kind of an interesting hybrid though, because someone investing in a piece of property, like you're saying, and I think I was going to ask you, do you think it's just in California, or do you see people, just anecdotally even, do you see people moving out of California? Because I've heard so much about people moving out of California, Idaho, to Texas, Tennessee, New Mexico, Arizona, right? All these different places because of whatever it is, taxes or whatever the reason is, people they feel like they're able to get more for their money. Maybe that's the thing, but having that space that maybe is a hybrid of just giving them just enough of that taste of, kind of like a conversion van versus a full on class A, RV, just to kind of assuage that. that urge, that tick towards freedom.
I know people who are also, there's also the other side of it, is where just people are looking in developing markets. Even Vista's one of them, where people have bought properties and are making money just renting out, not Airbnb, just renting it that covers their mortgage and make money on it. So I think there's that element, right, that's gone on forever, is real estate investment opportunities. But I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's like a place where they would like, I'd want to eventually retire there, or something where it's like, I love this place. So it may be out of California, but it also has a vacation rental market already. Because I think most people are seeing it as like a hybrid, where they can like vacation, like they can rent it out or have it be as a venue. And I think it's a combination of people, places you think are cool that you like. Some people love the desert, some people love the mountains or whatever, and that you see an opportunity there. And one of those hybrids is the Lautner.
Totally. And we're excited. I mean, Tracy, I don't know if you'll listen to this before you're on the podcast, but we're coming for you.
Yeah, Tracy, we want you on the show. I was like, Tracy would be great on this.
Yeah. And so we have a pretty exciting announcement. I talked about it in the intro, but we will make it here at the end after we're done here. But I love this. I think that you're totally right. And I think as people see this fantasy maybe of having this venue space, a wedding venue doesn't necessarily have to be 20 acres and this big barn and all this stuff. You can have it like this micro venue. And that's really the focus of this podcast. So someone considering this, newbie to the industry, or maybe even someone who's in the industry already, they're a florist, they're a DJ, they've already been exposed to the wedding and events industry. What tips would you give to someone who's going to do something similar that you've done, maybe to create a flex space that they can rent out? Are there some things that you would advise them to do? Maybe some first, second, thirds,
I think it would be like, one is being realistic. I mean, that's with any business, is being prepared if the first 6 months to a year are lean.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's kind of 101 for any business. So some people think if you build it, they will come, right? So being aware of I think just doing your research like anything is like, this was a little unique. What I have picked, like I want to open up a venue in Vista. This is unique for us because the kitchen was like plug and play. It was a perfect setup, and we made this work. But I think it's doing the research to see what kind of demand is happening for Airbnb. But then for venues, what other venues are out there? How often are they being booked? What rate can you get? Like really doing all of that pre-work, right? And then what are you gonna do to make it unique? Right? What are you gonna do?
That's really important.
It's really important, right? Yeah. And it's all about the gram, right? So what are you gonna do to make people and brides, if we're talking about weddings, like, oh, I want to be there, So I think it's a combination of all those things and just doing your homework,
Totally.
Doing your homework.
Yep.
Number one.
I love that. All right. Well, we're going to ask you a couple more questions about this. We'll talk about venues a little bit more, but we are going to move on to the next segment of our show, which is the wedding wheel.
Oh, cool.
And this is the first time we've done this. So I'm going to pull.
Okay. This is, wow.
You're the guinea pig. You're the guinea pig. So we're going to pull this thing up. Basically what this is here is.
Where's Savannah White? I'm going to spin this.
Very high-tech wheel, as you can tell here. And the idea behind this is we generate questions for our guests. And so if you are listening to this right now or you're watching this and you have some questions that you'd like to see for other guests coming up.
Big money.
Submit those, comment, send us a DM. We'd love to put the questions on, especially as we are announcing our future upcoming guests here. But this wedding wheel, we're going to spin it right now. You're going to take that question and then we're going to answer it. You're going to answer it a little bit later in the show.
Okay.
We have a couple of other
some time
segments.
to think about it.
You get
because there's some juicy ones on here.
There are some juicy ones. We've got the celeb crush. That's kind of an interesting one.
That's an easier one.
Let's see. We've got where's a location that inspires creativity? There's a question about money on here. What if I gave you $10 million? It's all fake money. I don't have that right now.
What?
If I gave you $10 million, what would you spend it on? Right? So we're going to give this a spin and let's see what we come up with. All right?
Cool.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, the celeb crush. All right. So you're going to have to keep watching. Let's see who David
Mine's funny.
Celeb crush is. I'm excited. All right. The next segment of our show is called Left at the Altar. And, this is, of course, kind of a funny name, but it's a very serious topic because there's so many letdowns and different mistakes and different things in business that happen to us as business owners and operators. And I think to your point about realism, it's so important to be realistic and to understand what you're getting into. So in your experience, what is the biggest letdown or mistake or something that you feel like you learned a really, really valuable lesson from?
Man. I don't know. I can't think of anything. Because I feel like it's just all part of the evolution. I don't really believe in failures.
Well, and it's not so much a failure as it is a learning experience.
Yeah.
It's a time where you were like, we won't do that again. I mean, I even think,
I know there's something there.
I even think of right now, like we normally would send out a calendar link.
Oh yeah.
And this morning, you know what I mean? Like we didn't send it out and there was that miscommunication. So, that would be an example. There's a backup. And the backup is, do you have any weddings that you've catered where someone was actually left at the altar?
No, and that's what my mind just started thinking when I heard left at the altar. We've had cancellations where like 2 weeks before, but I'm going to share just a fellow, another caterer basically said like, have you had a no-show?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, no way. They're like, oh yeah.
Like a straight no-show.
Straight at the caterer, everything was there. Like starting the ceremony, bride or groom doesn't show up. Like that moment, I was like, no way. Like, yep. They're like, we had everything ready to go. Everything was paid. I mean, it was happening and like just, and then what I loved was basically the father of the bride who paid for the whole thing. people started leaving. They're like, hell no. I paid for this dinner. Y'all are staying here and eating, and we're
gonna just have an event,
and they
a
fed
party.
Everyone, and
no.
the person didn't show.
We did this event at a big house in the Film Colony area in Palm Springs, and a very similar thing happened. Bride doesn't show up, groom's there, everything's all ready. And they were going to do, the ceremony and the wedding in the same place. It was at a private estate, and she doesn't show up, and he handled it so gracefully. I mean,
really?
Really. I mean, I
Wow.
was like, I think a lot of us were kind of like, oh man, that really sucks.
Yeah.
But he was like, hey guys, you're some of my closest friends and family here. Like, I'm excited to see all of you.
That's cool.
Let's go ahead. We're just going to spin this. Let's have a great time. Bars paid for, food's paid for.
That's cool.
Let's just,
maybe he was like, whoo, I was kind of worried about it too.
Yeah. Man.
No, you know what I did? I did think of something that I've learned I think is valuable across the board for any entrepreneur and any manager. Hire by culture and core value first, skills second. If you think some person is going to solve all your problems because they know how to do X, Y, Z, or they have X, Y, Z experience, or they had this client and they don't fit your vibe and they don't fit culturally, you can teach people how to do things. And I made that mistake where I was just like a chef or someone that I thought had exactly what we were looking for. And I ignored that they weren't very personable or weren't very communicative or things that were important to us or were dishonest or just might seem dishonest, or
totally.
I would just block it out like, but because look at the resume,
Yeah.
Hire by culture and core value first, skills second. You can teach someone how to fish. You can't teach them to love fishing.
I love that. I love that. That's huge.
And it was a painful experience because, as you know, you make so much of an investment bringing someone on board, and then you're trying to get that square peg to get into the round hole, and you're trying, and it burns up money. Everyone's unhappy. They could, poison the well, and everyone else is unhappy. So, that's number one. And I've learned from that, and over the past few years, we've done a really good job of that, I think.
Definitely. It's funny, that is totally leads into the next segment, which is, a hot tip that you would have. It's the daily prescription segment.
Love that.
And I think that's that would really be a good word for anyone, whether you're thinking about getting into any business, whether it's wedding related or not, venue related or not, just hiring for culture. I see it so often. And I think we all struggle with it as business owners because that you have that gap. Maybe it's something that you're even filling in for temporarily.
Or it's something you're just not good at, or you don't know how to solve for X.
Yep.
And you think that will just solve it. Yeah.
And you bring them on board, and then it just it throws off the balance of what you already have going on, and it can really eat up time and, money and just overall your enjoyment of the business and everything that you run.
Yeah.
As part of this too, are there some things that you feel like people would struggle with when starting a venue that you might not think, that people might not think, like kind of to your point about building it and they will come. You build this beautiful place out in Joshua Tree, and it's like you actually still need to market it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think knowing what you're good at, and knowing what you're not good at. I'm inconsistent at best with social media.
Yeah.
I post, but people joke like, what did I post? I hadn't posted for months on Facebook or something when I was on Facebook. And I posted something about how I hated a certain vegetable or something. They're like, someone was like, you don't post for 2 months. And then you just posted you don't like water chestnuts. Like, what? And I'm like, that's just how I am. So then running our social media, I would go on a storm of posting really cool photos or do that, and then it would be crickets.
Yeah.
And
I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely relate.
Yeah. I love marketing, but that element, because it's consistency and I just suck at that. So I've learned, not just fairly recently, hired someone to do it. So I would say for your social media, unless you're someone that is just all day, every day storying and doing everything, hire someone to do that.
Absolutely.
And content is king.
Yep.
but imagery, not words. Less is more with words. Everyone's attention span is out of a gnat. So it's like you have to be just great imagery. And I think we've done a good job that with Harvest Kitchen.
You really have. And we were just talking about that with video, like video. Pictures, like creating those sound bites and kind of interesting little moments that people can grab onto.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, well, let's follow back up. Who is
I forgot
your celeb crush?
Okay. So I don't really, I don't know people's names very much, but the first thing that comes to mind was, and I do know her name. Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I had a crush on her even during the big 90s hair days.
Okay.
And then when it got like more curly and tamed, I don't know why. I love dark curly hair, but it's Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld.
I love it. Okay.
She's still hot.
Well, there you go.
If you're listening, you're probably not.
So. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to get rid of this. We are going to wrap up our show. But I want to just give the audience an opportunity to connect with you, not only with what you're doing here with the boardroom, this micro venue here, but Harvest Kitchen. Where can people find out more about you? You were talking about social media. Where do people find you?
Yeah, main ways is through our websites, harvestkitchen.com and then booktheboardroom.com.
Okay.
And you can find us on Instagram. I'm really proud of our websites. I built them myself because I was in an advertising background.
Yeah. Your website's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. You do a really good job.
Imagery and headlines.
Yep.
So yeah, those two ways. And then Instagram, harvest_kitchen, book the boardroom. You can follow us there. And
and if you guys are in North County in Southern California, they are really centrally located right near Carlsbad, Vista, San Marcos. I mean, there's this little pocket of really cool. It's a really cool little pocket right along Palomar
like
Airport
60
Road.
breweries around here. And be on the lookout in this year where once we're able to gather, we're really excited to host events here and tasting dinners. Our executive chef, Josh, it was amazing. He has ideas for like vinyl record listening parties. And
this has been something that's been on your mind for quite a while.
So we're itching to host events here. And so be on the lookout for that for sure.
Amazing. Cool. Well, David, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And the big announcement that we have. So David has actually agreed to help me co-host.
Oh, yes.
A couple of episodes. So I'm really, really excited because we have some fun guests coming on.
Yeah.
And David is going to help me interview them. And some of these, of course, we're going to be doing virtually just because of the nature of everything. But we have, for the next couple episodes coming up, David will be helping me co-host and interview these guests and just talk more about venues and learning experiences and kind of giving you those tips and tricks and really the journey to help you understand if you are interested in starting your own venue or starting your own wedding business, what it's going to actually take to get it done. So cool. David, I'm pumped.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the next couple and you guys stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed and we'll see you in the next episode.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, guys, what an episode. That was really fun to talk to David. David is a friend and definitely an accomplished business person. It's really cool to see how he's pivoted from the catering and events company that he has, Harvest Kitchen, into now using this space that we're in right now, the boardroom, for events and micro weddings. And like he said, it's interesting, this new American dream, this idea of going and getting a property that might be an investment space, but then using it for weddings and events and different other things like that. And I'm curious what you think about it. So definitely leave us a comment. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or on Instagram, you're seeing a clip, leave us a comment, send us a DM, tell us if you agree or not. Like, is this something that you've thought of before? Absolutely love to hear from you. And remember to subscribe to our channel, check us out. And something in these beginning phases of this podcast, it would be incredibly helpful if you would give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else. Those ratings really help us continue to grow this channel, and it would make a big difference to us as the listener if you could do that for us. So anyways, I want to thank you for listening, for watching. It's been really exciting talking with David today, and I'm excited for how this podcast is moving along. David is going to be co-hosting the next couple of episodes, so we're really excited for the upcoming guests we have, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.